Mason blinked, struggling to focus as the dust settled around him. Gunfire crackled in the distance, and amidst the chaos, he saw him. Captain Price, a formidable figure with a grim expression, was leading the assault. They had been tracking the drug cartel for months, and now it was time to strike. Mason's senses were on high alert. Every shadow seemed to hide an enemy, every sound amplified in his mind. And there was Price, moving with deadly precision, his presence almost surreal. Mason followed, his nerves taut as a bowstring, his trust in Price absolute. The cartel's compound loomed ahead, an impregnable fortress of concrete and steel. As they breached the main gate, memories flashed in Mason's mind, fragments of a fractured reality. Could it be real? Was he truly fighting alongside Captain Price? Or was this another cruel manipulation by those who sought to control him? The faces of his past blurred before his eyes, and doubts gnawed at the edges of his sanity. Price seemed to sense Mason's hesitation. He turned, his gaze piercing through the smoke. "Stay sharp, Mason," he barked. "No room for doubt here." A part of Mason wanted to believe, needed to believe. They pushed forward, clearing room after room, until they reached the heart of the compound. There, surrounded by cartel lieutenants, was their target. But something felt off. The voices in his head roared louder, and reality twisted like a snake in his mind. Hudson's words echoed, a whisper of warning he had tried to suppress. Trust no one. Was Price the enemy? Had Hudson been trying to hide the truth all along? In a moment of clarity, Mason aimed his weapon, not at the cartel leader, but at Price. The captain froze, his eyes narrowing. "What are you doing, Mason?" Mason's hands trembled. "Who's the mole?" he demanded, his voice cracking. Hudson burst through the door, his face a mask of panic. "Mason, they're playing with your mind. Victor is the one." The revelation hit Mason like a wave, and his vision blurred. He had been used again, a puppet in a deadly game. He lowered his weapon, the weight of betrayal almost too much to bear. But who could he trust if not Price? In the labyrinth of deception, finding the truth seemed an impossible task. As the compound burned around them, Mason knew one thing for certain. The enemy wasn't just the cartel. It was within, hidden in the darkest corners of his mind. 2 years had passed since the haunting incident where Alex Mason first encountered Captain Price. Emerging from the shadows of his manipulated past, painful echoes of Russian brainwashing swirling in his mind, Mason set out to reclaim his life. He had battled his own mind, eluding the specter of a forced mission to assassinate President JFK. It wasn't easy, but Mason's strength of will prevailed. He introduced his old ally, Frank Woods, to the hardened and charismatic Captain Price. The trio then set their sights on their next target, the elusive and nefarious Raul Menendez. Unbeknownst to them, another devil lurked in the shadows, Vladimir Makarov. One day, a bullet pierced through the prior silence near the CIA headquarters, setting off an explosive chain of events. With alarms blaring, Mason, Price, and Woods engaged in a frenetic pursuit through a labyrinth of dark alleys and chaotic streets. Their goal was clear: capture or eliminate Menendez and Makarov. The scent of gunpowder filled the air. The relentless chase felt eternal. Amidst this cacophony, 2 new players entered the deadly game: Russell Adler and Helen Park. The duo, battle-hardened and enigmatic, soon confronted their own shadowy figure, Victor Resnov. Resnov stood as Mason's nemesis, a ghost from the past. Cold eyes locked in a standoff, neither yielding. Yet, as Mason observed closely, a chilling doubt arose. Reznov's gaze was not one of vengeance, but one laden with purpose and concealed intent. Illusions unraveled, and hidden truths bubbled to the surface. Could it be that Reznov came not as an enemy, but as an unexpected savior? Mason's gut churned with suspicion. Were Adler and Park truly on their side, or were they covertly orchestrating chaos under Menendez's command? the line between friend and foe blurred, paranoia gripping Mason's heart. Resnov's hoarse voice broke the silence. "Mason, you must choose wisely." Not all allies were familiar faces. With adrenaline and heightened senses, Mason weighed the cost of trust. Betrayal loomed large, each second laden with mistrust. The battle intensified, no longer just a combat of bullets and strategy, but of loyalty and deception. As they edged closer to Menendez and Makarov, a sense of foreboding loomed. Mason's mission teetered on the knife edge of betrayal, where one wrong choice could spiral into disaster. In the dim glow of a war-torn setting, Mason faced the ultimate test: to decipher truth from a web of lies and unveil the real enemy hiding within. Mason could hardly believe it. Months of planning, the tireless extraction of Raul Menendez and Vladimir Makarov had finally come to fruition. Yet, the smug grin on Helen Park's face told him that the nightmare wasn't over. "Now that I've got you, there's no escaping my gun," she taunted, her eyes sparkling with malicious joy. Mason's heart pounded in his chest as he ordered Woods to stand by, his gaze never leaving Park. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the dark hallway behind him. Russell Adler, the trusted veteran, appeared with a shotgun aimed directly at Mason's head. Mason's stomach twisted in betrayal, but before he could react, Woods fired a precise shot at Adler's hand, knocking him down. "He's the mole inside the CIA. He's the one who set up Operation Greenlit. He's the one who almost got you killed, brother," Woods shouted, his voice thick with emotion. Mason's mind raced as he tried to process the revelation. "Well, he's gone. What about Helen Park?" he yelled, turning his attention back to her. But Park had vanished, slipping away in the chaos. As if the situation couldn't get worse, Captain Price's voice crackled through the comms. "You need to get out of there. The building is set to blow." Mason and Woods bolted, their legs pumping with adrenaline as they sprinted towards the exit. They barely made it to the helicopter when a deafening explosion echoed behind them. They leapt onto the aircraft, only for it to shudder violently. Helen Park, ever the vengeful adversary, had hit it with a rocket launcher, sending it spiraling towards the ground. Mason and Woods jumped just in time, hitting the ground hard but alive. As they lay on the ground, bruised and battered, Mason vowed that Helen Park wouldn't escape again. The betrayal they had uncovered tonight was just the beginning. There would be a reckoning.